Hello, everybody, and I'm Grace Kelly, founder of gracefulcoaching.net, and I'm coming to you live today from Puglia, Italy, where we have snow currently taking place. Perhaps for the first time in many, many years. It's an uncommon thing here, but as I'm sitting here ready for my webinar today, I'm sort of looking at this winter wonderland that's occurring just outside the window. And so for those of you that don't know me, I did leave my day job as a school teacher in London, and I moved to Italy, where I created an international coaching business, much to my own surprise, traveling the world, hosting clients in all different parts of the world, and going from zero really to multiple six figures in the space of 18 months. So for those of you that are currently in a job right now and you're thinking about getting out or you're thinking about making a change, I really hope that my journey inspires you. And for those of you that are currently already out and maybe you're getting set up working on something of your own or your own business, I hope that my journey, and particularly today's call on letting go the money monsters, will really help you step fully into your passion-based business. So to get started, what I would suggest is that you close everything down, be that Facebook or Instagram or anything that tends to want to grab your attention. In my case, it's Messenger. I tend to be available for my clients on Messenger, so sometimes they're messaging me. So you can sometimes hear that kind of ding. Take this hour to let go of the distractions, because today we're really going to focus on something that will be transformative for you. You know, we're really looking at letting go of the money monsters to step fully into your passion-based business on this particular call. On our last webinar, we were looking at letting go of the work you felt stuck in. And so it became more apparent to me that the reason many of you are feeling stuck is less to do with, let's say, having ideas. Many of you have more than enough ideas, but it has more to do with just finding yourself consistently being up against that money monster. So we're really going to take some time today to help you move beyond that. And here's how I differ, or here's what I want to really set out from the beginning here, is that I'm not about helping you just go make a bunch of money. There's loads of people out there teaching you how to do that. And whilst what I have ultimately supports you in being able to make a bunch of money, what I'm more interested in is in you being able to experience a sense of ease and grace and just pure well-being, regardless of your bank account. Now that's kind of radical to say that, I know, but that was my journey, okay? And I'm going to share a bit more deeply with you about that experience as we get into the call. But what I want to really just make clear from the beginning is that, you know, these money monsters, there are other ways to address them than simply going off and making money. And that looks like a great idea, and that was where I started. I started there too. I built a multiple six-figure business in the space of 18 months. It looked like a really good idea to me to be in service and make a lot of money. And what I saw in that journey for me personally was that it didn't matter how much money I had coming in, I still had stress and panic and anxiety about money. And so that's really the inspiration for this call, is that, how do we go beyond these money monsters to actually being able to experience peacefulness and quietness internally, so that we can be out there creating the income that we want to create. Part of our call today is really, an exploration on, how we can be in the spirit of service And I was sharing this yesterday with my client, Mandy, who's here with us today. You know, the spirit of service is so much more interesting than looking at, you know, simply getting the bills paid. So on today's call, I do want to address the spirit of service versus just making money to pay the bills. I'm also going to address how the spirit of service helped me build my own business. I'm also going to address, you know, where we can tap into wisdom with money versus, and the universal bank with money versus getting caught up in the money monsters. And I'm also just really going to support those of you who really want to get unstuck and stop letting this money piece be the reason that you don't pursue your passions. You know, there's a whole list of reasons we all have as to why we don't necessarily follow our passions. But if money is one of the reasons that you're staying in a job that you don't love, or perhaps you're sticking to a business model that you've outgrown because of the money, or if money is one of the reasons that, you know, you've had just more difficulty in experiencing a graceful life, then this webinar is really going to help you today. So do have some pen and paper, but please know that I'm recording. And so what I have found to be most beneficial is that if you're here and you're present and you're not trying to make a bunch of notes, but you're actually getting ready for your own insight by listening presently. And then afterwards that you review this webinar, and that's where you take notes, or you get another insight, or you get more aha going forward. So here's where I'd like to start today. I'd like to start by sharing that this is definitely the webinar for you if you don't know what it is you want to do and you've so much to give. We all know that feeling, like we've so much to give, but we're just, what do we do with all this thing we've got? What do we call it? What do we offer? So that, you know, this is one for you. This is the area that I specialize in mostly with people, is helping them really get that clarity on what it is they're here to contribute and serve. This is also for you if you're as I said earlier, if you're staying in your current job or business model simply for the money. And it's also for you if you're not sure where you're going, but you know it's not where you've been. And so what I mean by that is you've outgrown that business model, or you've outgrown that way that you used to do your marketing, or you've outgrown that way that you used to work. And of course, it's for all of you that have money monsters that are just leaving you so scared and stuck and really uninspired by your day-to-day life and your work. So let me start by sharing a little bit around what I see as a money monster, because it's a bit of a generic term that came from a lovely conversation I had with a friend of mine in London. And what I truly am talking about here is I'm talking about any set sort of insecurity that comes up for you. So that might be in the form of fearing that you don't have enough. It might be in the form of constantly thinking about money rather than, you know, finding creative solutions. It might be in the form of, like in my own case, having enough income, but still worrying about money. Money monsters show up in different ways, but ultimately, to me, they are just an insecurity that keeps presenting itself. And what I find over time is that when we keep looking at the money monster, guess what? We see more of it. And I want you to hear that again, because most of the world insists on you looking at and working on your problem. Okay, but what I have found to be true is that the more we keep looking at the problem, the more of the problem we have, the more we see. We don't necessarily find solutions over there. So one of my big encouragements from initially from today is that as much as you have money monsters, I would love for you to see them for what they truly are. They are a form of insecurity passing by. And if we are to focus on our insecurity more and more and more, we are to experience the feeling of that more and more and more. So it is helpful to initially look away from your money monsters. And people might be thinking, well, how do I do that, Grace? You know, my problems are so real. My situation is so real. And this is not in any way to suggest that what you're experiencing around money isn't. But it's to suggest that solutions do not come from looking more deeply at the problem. I have found solutions come from a quieter space. And often in my own life, that quieter space has come from taking my mind off of the problem or looking away from the problem. You know, many of my clients are often kind of shocked as to why we're not spending, you know, a ton of sessions on dealing with the situation. Well, a ton of sessions aren't necessary because to deal with the situation, because when you really start to see the situation for what it is, simply a focus on your insecure thoughts rather than a connection to your own wisdom, then it really, really reduces the amount of time needed to be spent on trying to fix an illusionary problem. Now, again, it's not to say you don't have money monsters and issues going on, but it's to say, you know, they're another form of insecure thought passing through. And by focusing more and more on that, you will simply get stuck on that treadmill and that cycle of more and more therapy and more work needed and more coaching needed, all on the same area. The real beauty of addressing your money monster, if you like, is that once you get beyond that insecure thinking, now you're no longer putting out fires. Now you're over here able to address your purpose, your bigger reason, your potential, everything you're here to create. So I hope in some way it is reassuring for you to recognize that what you're up against is insecure thought about money. And because thought is so transient in nature, like clouds on the sky, sometimes they come in thick and heavy and they scare the life out of us. And sometimes they come in light and easy and we don't notice them. You know, because of thought being so transient in nature, we don't have to be giving so much of our energy and attention to that insecure thinking about money. Now, for some reason in our world, we've been taught that we must figure it out. You know, we must make it happen. It's up to us to sort this money problem out or to get this bill paid. And wisdom is not inactive, but it doesn't need you to take the bull by the horns. And in fact, when you think of that, you know how dangerous it is to take a bull by the horns. It's an extremely dangerous thing to do, right? Wisdom doesn't need us to take our money monsters by the horns and deal with it and figure it out and figure out how to get the bill paid. Wisdom is very proactive and will move us to the solution. And as I have seen it, the only reason we really have these money monsters going on is because we have moved away from that innate wisdom to create some sort of separation with our inherent abundance. Because the reality is that there isn't any lack of income or resources out there. Just as we're able to take our next breath without thinking about it, so we are able to tap into the next resource we need. And we've been very innocently conditioned to believe that there's lack and there's competition and there's scarcity. That is the thinking of this world. But we have this free will. We have this beautiful free will. We've been gifted this free will to choose where to look over there at what the world is telling us is reality, or to look over here at what our wisdom is calling us to. And so when I meet people who have really serious financial struggles and difficulty, it's not that they're not real. And it's not that they have done something wrong, as traditional psychology seems to be continuously enforcing that you're creating the problem. Forget that. That's not helpful, right? But what I see when I see someone struggling really financially is I see someone who is forgetting about their connection to this universal intelligence behind life, this wisdom within that knows how to turn acorns into oak trees and embryos into babies without you or I doing anything about it. They've moved away from that and they've taken money by the horn, the bull by the horns when it comes to money, not trusting that it's there. Not trusting that it's available, and that we, little small me, little Grace with a small g, has got to make it happen or fix it or sort it out. Now, that's an innocent behavior to get into when you're scared. But what I'm sharing with you today is the fear is coming from a money monster that looks real, but ultimately is a thought passing through your head that's creating a deep feeling of insecurity inside of you. It's not actually real. Now, how can I say that with conviction? Well, because I was someone who, went from 0 to 6 figures and then 6 figures to $250,000 in a pretty short space of time after leaving her day job. And I had 0 savings in the bank. I've always been a good spender, right? So I kind of noticed over the time of having more and more money that my money monsters, my thinking about money didn't change. I still had all of that noise and that worry and that stress and that panic. And in seeing that internal noise was a form of insecure thought, in seeing that thought was transient and I didn't have to keep focusing my attention over there, in seeing that ultimately it would move on and that it didn't mean what I thought it meant, something within me relaxed. And I really noticed that this relaxation was there when I find myself on the other side of the world with no money coming in, a £7,000 credit card bill to be paid in full within 48 hours, because that's how my business was set up. And for the first time in my life, I would say, I wasn't freaking out. The money monsters were gone. And what was left was this quieter mind that find a solution to that particular experience. And within 48 hours was able to turn the ship around. So, you know, I don't want you to have to be pushed to that zone of discomfort to notice for yourself. And I'm not saying you have to be, but I really knew my money monsters were gone by the feeling of peace I was now living in, despite the lack of income in the bank account, despite being on the other side of the world, despite the bank being on the phone, you know, with the threat of the bank being on the phone and a £7,000, a $10,000 credit card bill due. And when I look back on that, it seems clear to me now that there was something about seeing that any feeling of fear around money was really just indicating me being lost in thought, in insecure thought, in money monster thinking. As opposed to it representing a terrible future for my business. And very innocently, I notice with people is that they innocently associate freaking out about money in the moment with the future of their business or their career or their finances. As if what they're feeling right now is going to be true for next month and next year and the rest of their business life. Now for me, and I hope for you too, as I'm watching the snowfall here just really, really lightly, we can take our thinking lightly, like this snowfall that's happening, right? We can take it lightly, or we can take it heavy and we can grip onto it and we can get afraid of it and we can reinforce it. I would encourage you all to begin to see that your thinking about money can be taken lightly, and your thinking about money is subject to change because thought is transient in nature. It's not solid. It doesn't stick. It moves on. It's not who you truly are. And you absolutely do not have to go to zero to recognize this. You absolutely do not have to be in the position I was in on the other side of the world with nothing coming in to recognize that peace is possible right now. Because peace is there for you around any area of life, and particularly money, the less involved you are with your thinking, your insecure thinking in particular. And it looks to me now like the more engrossed people get with their thinking about money, the less solution they find and the more the cycle continues. And this is very innocent. We fall for our thinking. Then it gets reinforced in the external world with things like you need to fix your money story, or well, you see, you have this pattern, you need to fix it, or well, look, your parents were like that, or your culture's like that. The ego loves to find evidence The ego's always searching for evidence, always searching for evidence to reinforce that insecurity. That's why I highly encourage you to notice your money monsters, but don't hang out with them. Stop getting into bed with them. Stop engaging their attack. One of the ways has really helped me to stop engaging that is to be in the spirit of service. And I want to talk a bit about that now. The spirit of service is the complete opposite to the money monster, because the spirit of service is the part of us that is craving to give more, that is craving to expand, that is coming from our true nature and wants to reach out to others. The spirit of service is so not interested in getting the bills paid and so much more interested in really doing what the soul enjoys most. And as someone who spent 9 months on the beach before she started her business, I can tell you, the soul wants to serve. There comes a point where too much comfort and pleasure and relaxation actually becomes uncomfortable. And we are moved into the spirit of service. Even if we've been, like I was, a burnt out school teacher for years before, there comes a point that we are moved into the spirit of service. And as it happens, this spirit of service takes care of the money, takes care of the income, takes care of getting the bills paid. It's also proactive. It's asking you to serve. Sometimes it's asking you to leave that job and get started on your own. Sometimes it's asking you to set something up on the side. But the spirit of service is always nudging us, always nudging us. And the reason I think people experience financial struggle is they ignore this nudge. And they go back to needing to take the bull by the horns, needing to make it happen or figure it out or have more confidence and clarity before they get started. They find all sorts of reasons why all sorts of reasons why not to follow the nudge. And so if you're listening today and something has been nudging you, the chances are that's the very thing that's going to get you beyond the money monster. That's also the very thing that's going to ensure that you're not living in financial struggle month in, month out. It's going to be the thing that has you experience a whole new relationship to money. But if you're only staying in your job for the money, or you're only getting into a healing or a coaching or an educating business for the money, that's not the spirit of service. That's the insecurity at work. And nothing good can come from there. Like, I truly believe the reason my success was so rapid and so not typical of someone starting out in a new industry is because that spirit of service was there. It wasn't about making money. It wasn't about, my biggest void at that time was, oh my God, I'm so bored, I could kill myself. Now, it sounds dramatic, but that's how it felt. I was so bored that I was just like, oh, is this all there is to life? Is this it? Like, thank you, God, for this lovely transition from day job to beach life. But come on, you know, something was pushing me, that spirit of service. Had I known it was going to become traveling the world, hosting clients internationally, being endorsed by Forbes, writing a blog consistently, going to a six-figure and multiple six-figure level. Had I known that, I probably would have been afraid. I probably would have thought to myself, oh my good God, no, I better just stay where I am. But you see, the spirit of service, it gives us one service at a time. It's not interested in the big picture, and it's not interested in what's in it for me and how's it going to look to the world and how much celebrity can we actually generate from that. It's not interested in that. The spirit of service is interested in you serving in a way that gives you joy and is fulfilling to you and really helps others, really gives people what they want and what they're looking for. So for those of you that are sometimes perhaps concerned with, well, how do I leave my job if I don't know what I want to do, or what do I do? How do I how do I get into the spirit of service? Those are the wrong questions to be asking. The question really is, what is my wisdom calling me to? And remember, wisdom is of the moment. It's not interested in 6 days from now. What is my wisdom calling me to? Because it's our separation from wisdom that has created the financial problem over and over and over. It is our separation from wisdom that is keeping us stuck in jobs that we don't want to be in, or keeping us at a level in our business that we know we've outgrown. It is our separation from wisdom that is clouding really our clarity and our direction and what it is we could be doing next. And so the question is not, how do I make more money, Grace? How do I get out there, Grace? It's like, what is my wisdom calling me to? Get in connection with that. What is the spirit of service nudging me towards? Get in connection with that. And as you start to see your money monsters as, well, really, I think it was a coach of mine that once said it, it's kind of like as you start to see them as shadows in the dark, right? Instead of real things that are occurring, they will lose their grip and you'll stop getting into bed with them. And you'll find that you're less concerned with how you're going to get your next bill paid, and you're more concerned with being in the spirit of service. Now, another thing about the spirit of service is that that is the way we tap into the universal bank. I can't wait to share more about this at our London event next week. I think it's not next week, Grace. 17th of January, I'm in London. And so many people have asked me about this universal bank piece. So we're going to share more about that at the event, right? But the spirit of service opens the doors to the universal bank. Because when we're in that giving position, in that giving mode, in that place of wanting to serve and expand and help, there is just an abundance that comes forth. I'll give you a tangible example in my own life. Before I started my business, I spent the previous couple of years in London with creating an opportunity on the side for people to share their message on stage. It was a little meetup group, actually. I had a little meetup group. I was a school teacher during the day, and then a couple of times a month, a little meetup group on the side. And at that meetup group, people would come and, you know, I would gather people together and I would give people an opportunity to share their work on the stage. And I didn't charge for that. There was no money in it for me. It was really the spirit of service again. Because I was so bored in my day job, I had to do something outside of my day job to get that fulfillment factor. And so that was it for me. Now, when it came time to share my new venture with the world, I truly believe that it was in giving of myself previously that I was reimbursed so quickly. When it came time for me to say, and this will cost X amount of money. Or when it came time for me to say, and this is what I can offer you now. So there is something about being so less concerned about what's in it for you financially and being so interested in just following that nudge of service, because the universal bank will reimburse you. Sometimes I meet people and say, well, I want to be a coach, Chris, but I don't want to do it if I'm not getting paid for it. You know, it's like, what? What? Go and reevaluate if you really want to be a coach. Like the money comes forward. And I know I'm sitting here saying this from a more experienced place perhaps, but lean on my faith, lean on my experience. The money comes forward the more we are in that spirit of service. And the less we're looking at how much am I going to make from that, and how much should I be charging for that, and how much, you know, our mind, the insecure mind, wants to always bring you back to logistics. Okay, so that's a form of money monster. Now that I think about it, that's another form of money monster. How much should I charge? You know, what should I say it costs? Or how will I get the bill paid? We're tapping into the universal bank. And the ways that we tap into the universal bank are to follow those nudges that wisdom are giving us in the form of ideas, in the form of creativity, in the form of service. And in really not delaying, in acting on those ideas, in acting on those nudges. You know, the times I've gotten into trouble financially, it's not because I didn't know what to do. It's because I didn't act on what I heard. It's because I took too long to implement the idea. It's because I procrastinated in that fearful money monster energy. What if, what if, what if, what if, what if, until eventually the idea died a death. But the more we're connecting to that wisdom and that spirit of service, the more our lives work. Now, if you find you're someone who you're just constantly looking at the money piece and, what am I going to do about the money? And I don't have the money for that. And I wish I had the money for this. And how am I going to get that bill paid? You're looking in the wrong direction. And whilst I don't disagree with going out to make a bunch of money, I love that. I'm a great spender. I love life. I love to do that. I also am very, very, very aware now that that's not where our peace of mind about money comes from. Because the minute that bank account goes low, or the minute those clients run low, you're back to freaking out with money monsters. And so I'm much more interested in you coming to a place where you're okay and you're able to navigate and operate in your life and business regardless of the money. And what I've seen around that for my own clients and myself is that that's a solid foundation to start a business from. Because you're not building something on quicksand, whereby as soon as the storm comes, as soon as the lack of income arises, which it will. I've never seen a business where there has been a consistent flow all the way through. But when the storm does come, you're not knocked off your feet for months on end. Your confidence isn't knocked. You're not in bed with the money monsters freaking out. And interestingly, as we are coming from that place of groundedness and solid foundation, what happens is creative solutions occur to us. Wisdom nudges loudly, we hear it loudly. And we don't have that same experience with money anymore. It used to be such a freak out for me. This whole thing about banks, such a freak out, the whole world of banks for me. I was so scared. I remember when I started my business, I had to borrow the money. And, you know, to cut a long story short, the universal bank was there for me and I didn't even know it. It turned out when I was a school teacher, my bank had offered me a credit card. But being an Irish Catholic, in my house, credit cards and debt were bad. So I was brought up to believe that if you had that, if you use your credit card, you're going to get into trouble. So I was so scared of using this card. And when it came time to start my business, I think the investment needed to get started was something like £6,000. And I was, well, I don't have £6,000. Where do I get £6,000? And, you know, the person said to me, well, don't you have a credit card, Grace? I said, well, no, I was a school teacher. Now I don't have anything. Well, wait a minute. I did have a credit card, but I never used it, but it's not active because I've never used it. And I went back and I discovered through the bank, oh yes, you do have a credit card. Oh yes, you have £6,000 on your card. You've never used it. The exact amount of money needed. Now I had to take the leap to actually take the card and use it. And I made the promise to myself. I'm going to make this money back in 30 days. I'm going to pay this card off in full in 30 days. And so my experience of money for initially was always about making sure I didn't get found out. And I kept up with the money monsters and kept making money to make sure that my parents wouldn't find out and blah, blah, blah. And then I noticed that I was missing payments and I wasn't freaking out. And I was like, that's interesting. Something that used to scare the absolute life out of me doesn't seem to be that scary anymore if I'm missing payments on my card. Now, the piece I want you to take from that story is we all have access to this universal bank. We just often are looking at the visible, tangible reality, and we're not seeing where the money currently could come from. So I really want to inspire you to stop using money as an excuse for not following your passions, not living your passions, not stepping fully into your passion-based business, and to stop using money as the reason you stay in a job that is sucking the life out of you. Now, I'm not suggesting that you just completely jump ship like I did with nothing to go to, but I am suggesting that there is another possibility for you. And I am absolutely advocating that the universal bank is not subject to me alone. It's the same energy that turns acorns into oak trees and embryos into babies. It's this universal energy behind life. And it comes in the form of money and help and support and abundance and all sorts of things. And your job is to be more interested in that and less interested in the money monsters, the insecure thinking about money. Because as you do that shift, you will see your life change. And I'm going to take you through a little exercise now to help you. And for those of you that want to go deeper, it's not something we necessarily can just shift. And I'm not going to be naive in thinking that in the space of just a webinar here or there, your lifetime experience of money monsters is suddenly gone. But for those of you that want to go deeper, I will open up the opportunity to speak with you personally. So if you would like to experience a call with me where we are exploring more about your situation and whereby we can look together towards how you can be supported and helped in this year of 2019 through this coaching to really be moving beyond those money monsters and into that service that you really want to be giving to people, then I invite you to that call. And you can book that call with me on gracefulcoaching.net/speakwithgrace. There is something about borrowed thinking is what I'm going to call it, and borrowed faith. Just like we have to borrow money from the bank sometimes, or our parents to get started. Sometimes you have to borrow the mind of someone who is not looking at life in the same way that you are. And if you're interested really in having peace right now around money and being able to therefore create in your business or create something new in your career and having that clarity on what it is you want to do, then this particular coaching that I do is for you. So if you want to go more deeply, get in touch. But for now, I want to take you through an exercise because this exercise was so cool. And I want to bring Mandy on for a little minute too, because if she doesn't mind, because Mandy had a great experience with this exercise on the last call. And what this exercise is, ladies and gents, is it's going to help you shift out of money monsters and into financial flow. And it's going to help you identify where you are getting into bed with the monsters versus actually following what your wisdom's calling you to. So just real quick, Mandy, like you did the exercise last time. What did you take away from it? Why was it so powerful?
Because I realized I'd crawled under the bed with the monster and had been living there for a long, long time.
I love that.
And it was a dark space, yeah. And just this exercise helped me really transition away from thinking and living in that space of insecure thinking, financial, living in my lack of money, as opposed to seeing how much abundance there is in the universal bank. Huge transition.
Oh, lovely. Great. Well, glad to hear it. And thanks for sharing. I think, ladies, that we can really trick ourselves. That's what this exercise really taught me, is just how much we trick ourselves. The insecure mind, it's a sneaky one. And so in doing this exercise, you're going to really get to see more clearly what you're up to and whether or not that's actually in alignment with what you're saying you want to do. So take your pieces of paper, and what I would ask you to do with those pieces of paper start, I'd ask you to draw a line. Well, we'll draw a line. We'll just draw a line down. Positive on one side and negative on the other side. I think that would be absolutely fine. And what I'm going to suggest, I'm just trying to get a sense of when I did this again. What I'm going to suggest is I really just want you to have a think right now about things that you're wanting to experience, things that your wisdom has been calling you to. And I'm going to give you a really tangible example of my own to help you. Like, my desire and nudge has really been around having a new home. Okay. And I want to have a home that is beautiful, and it's, you know, it's surrounded by beauty, and it lights me up, and it's more of a reflection of me and who I am, right? And so that's the positive. That goes in the positive part of my page, right? In the positive column, having a beautiful home. Now, here's what I noticed in myself was I was in the home decor store, and I was looking at all these beautiful pieces in the home decor store. And I kept saying to myself, I'll get that when I've got my beautiful home. So here's what goes in the negative part side of the page this time. Like, what goes in the negative for me is waiting until I have and not purchasing now. Now, what's in alignment here? What would have been in alignment would have been purchasing even just one item, even just one of those items that I saw, purchasing even just one of those, and letting that be the first step to that beautiful home. Now, I hope I'm sharing this clearly, and maybe Mandy, even it'd be great if you were open to sharing one of yours if you want to. But for me, it was about the home and wanting the home, and the negative thing that I was doing, the way I was keeping myself out of flow with that beautiful home, was looking around me and saying, oh, well, when I have the home, that's in conflict with my desire. Do you want to share, Mandy? You don't have to. Do you want to share an example from yours?
I will. I'm happy to. So I used to be an international hotelier, and I have a love of hotels. But what I learned in this exercise was that I talk about hotels as something I've moved away from, something that is the negative. What I wasn't doing was realizing and connecting with my love of the beauty of hotels and the love of fine environments and dining and traveling and staying first class at a hotel. So that was not in alignment, because I was talking about a hotel as if it was an experience I no longer wanted, and it was bad. But it wasn't. It was the job that was bad, not the beauty of the hotel that I loved. So that was where I really connected with how I was out of alignment with what wisdom was calling me to do.
So what would you have written in the positive part of the column and the negative part of the column? Do you remember?
To go and enjoy a hotel, even if it's just to have a glass of wine there, and not see it as a bad memory of a job that I had in a hotel.
Love it.
That blew wide open for me. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Good. Okay, so I'm going to give a few minutes for you all to, if you'd like to, invite you to, complete that exercise, looking at the positive. What's your wisdom nudging you towards? And then the negative, how are you keeping yourself out of that? So I'll give you a few minutes there. ladies, for that exercise. I mean, this is an exercise that you can come back to again and again, especially when you're feeling that you're not in alignment, or the flow has gone missing for you, or, you know, you're saying you want one thing, but you're demonstrating another thing, as in my case with the home and the home decor store. You know, it's important that you see the innocence of your behavior. You know, this isn't about finding more patterns for you to be concerned about. That's not helpful. This is just looking at where you're perhaps shutting off the universal bank that's available, and perhaps where you're just not really allowing wisdom to have its way with you. Okay. What I want to share in closing really today is that the spirit of service will make you rich. Money monsters will keep you poor. And money monsters are simply an insecurity, is insecurity in action, insecurity at work. Okay. And so I really encourage you all to consider that peace is possible right now where money is concerned. And the reason that is so is because insecurity and money monsters are nothing more but a form of transient worrying thought passing through. And the less you get into bed with that thinking, the more creative solutions, the more ideas, the more wisdom will reveal to you what it is you are to do. And for those of you who want to go deeper on that, maybe you don't know what you want to do, but you do know you've so much more to give. Or maybe you're just looking for a whole new relationship around this subject of money and your business. I do invite you once more to get in touch on gracefulcoaching.net/speakwithgrace, and we will look at what's next for you and what that coaching would look like together for 2019. In the meantime, I am wishing you all a fabulous rest of the day. If you are in London on January 17th, reach out. We would love to see you. We're celebrating the launch of our new brand, and we have a lovely event planned. So gracefulcoaching.net is birthing this very month, finally. Exciting times as we move into this whole new world of service, and this whole new realm of being, and just showing up as graceful coaching. Come back to you in a moment on those. Thank you, and I just thank you all for being here. I do hope you listen to the replay. That will be helpful. And in the meantime, have a lovely rest of your day. Lots of love. Ciao. Bye.